All right, hey guys. I wanted to jump on a live stream. Never done this on this particular channel, so this will be kind of an interesting little trial. I know a lot of you are subscribed and are paying attention, so feel free to jump in on the comments. I'm going to watch here because you're probably going to have some questions. But the reason I decided to do this on the spur of the moment, live, without kind of my high production camera, is because I received an email that is a pretty common mistake that a lot of folks make with age leads. And this email, I felt like I needed to respond to immediately. I sent him a quick sort of bullet pointed list of things that he could do to rectify the situation. But like I said, it's a common mistake. So, and that mistake is he purchased a bunch of age leads and then he just threw them into Mailchimp and immediately got some rejection notices that said, hey, there's the bounce rate's too high. We're not going to send this. And literally kind of froze that list. So let me back up and talk a little bit more specifically about what age leads are, why you should be buying, what's the use case to buy age leads, and then the right way to start to make those effective in your business. Okay, so first and foremost, let's start with the business objective. Why would you actually buy age leads? In my mind, there's really only one primary use case to purchase age leads, or for that matter, any kind of lead, even real-time leads. And that is to build a book of business, right? Make your business more valuable and build a book of clients as fast and as cheap as possible. That's the primary objective. There's really no other reason to buy age leads. Now, I know some people use them so that they can kind of work with partners or enable those people to kind of help them out with other leads, right? Or maybe you're running a call center, or you're running a business that needs to just kind of keep your salespeople engaged with leads. So it's kind of the same sort of use case there as well. You're trying to build a larger book of business, and you're trying to do that as fast and as cheap as you can. So with that in mind, and that being your objective, right? So I guess I should back up just a tiny bit. I also often hear people come in and buy age leads because they want to just kind of hit that quota for the end of the month. And that is also a possibility, right? If you're going to work these right and you have the system set up, another kind of use case, I guess, for age leads would be just to pump up your numbers, towards the end of the month, or even just to prep your quota for the beginning of the month. But it's really important that you still have this system in place and you have this mindset of building your book of business, or even those kind of like momentary sort of silver bullet moments won't work well as well. Either, right? So age leads is not necessarily a silver bullet. So those people that just think they can buy a bunch of age leads, they're going to react like real-time leads or like your own referral business. It's a different animal. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to make this different category of leads effective for you, and not to run into the issues that this particular client did by putting them straight into Mailchimp. Okay, so understanding our number one use case, our primary objective in buying age leads is to build our book of business as fast and as cheap as possible. That's why we're going to get this cheap data, this cheap age leads. The second thing we need to know is and understand is, what are age leads? What exactly are you getting when you purchase age leads? So if you haven't heard this definition, again, this is the one that I most commonly use. And they are simply, especially as they relate to Age Lead Store, these are opt-in internet leads, generally generated by real-time lead providers, and are put into the market or brokered into the market because they have not had their maximum monetization. So a particular lead, when it's generated, and the consumer's aware of this as well, the kind of the promise that's delivered to the consumer is, we will give you kind of X amount of options, or we will put you in touch with this number of lenders or this number of providers to give you options to search from. Well, oftentimes, because of a variety of different reasons, all of those options, all of those permutations, if you will, those 4 or 5 lenders that the consumer is hoping to get, were not provided to them. So as a result of that, they kind of move into this age lead bucket because they just simply are aging over time. They're not sort of getting that maximum number of options as a consumer, and the actual lead provider is not getting the maximum number of options for their monetization. So that's what age leads are. And as they age, let's see. Oh, yeah. So this is a good question, Gwen. Um, in most cases, now, and this is probably a caveat I should get on every single video. I'm not your legal department. I'm not your regulator. Okay. So all of this stuff has to be double vetted with your own compliance approach, whatever that is in your compliance department. But for the most part, these leads, and Troy can kind of give you more details specific to the particular leads that you get at any given time. But for most of these, most lead providers are now going to this opt-in sort of opt-in disclosure or disclaimer that makes the consumer say, yes, I'm agreeing to be contacted by all sorts of different means, right? They're sort of opening these up. Most lead providers are very conservative, so they want kind of all the options on the table. And honestly, consumers want the information, so they generally opt into those things, and text messaging is one of those. But I'm going to talk about text messaging specifically here in a second. And so the period of that validity, again, varies over time. Troy can give you very specifics on the particular leads that you're purchasing, because it could vary depending on what your selection is. But generally, yes, generally the customer has opted in, and that opt-in includes being contacted via text message. And also the agreement is usually valid for an extended period of time. So that's, and then does it depend on industry? I would say probably stepping a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but I would generally say that all industries have kind of moved to this because the actual regulation and the rules that guide this, the legal rules that guide this, Mike, are actually they apply to all sorts of sales and marketing, right? So it's not dependent on mortgage or not dependent on insurance. But again, your particular compliance department might have a different feel for this, and certainly they're in charge as it pertains to you. Okay, so let's get in. So we've described number one objective, again, for buying leads is I want to build a book of business as fast and as cheap as possible. Age Leads a great way to do that. What is Age Leads? It's simply an opt-in internet lead that over time has aged or is aging as we speak. So it could be 30, it could be 60, 90 days, however long it's aging. As it goes through that aging process, it will notably deteriorate. Okay, so when we say deteriorate, that means the contact information will, people change their phone numbers. We did a whole video on this, the frequency at which people change their phone numbers over the year and the frequency at which they change their emails. So the answer kind of to that is yes, that's going to happen. We can't control the behavior of consumers, but that's also why you're buying an age lead for $1 versus $25 for a real-time lead. And the other thing that's kind of associated with that, not to just give up everything, but we're also trying to enhance that lead and trying to optimize it. So we're always trying to do that data verification to kind of bring that level up. But inherently, there's going to be some of that. So this is why we don't just kind of treat this lead as if they just inquired. We have to do a little bit more work, and we're trying to get that balance between dollars and sweat. Okay. Okay, so this is the dues part of Age Leads. So when you get your batch of Age Leads, here's some of the things that I recommend that you specifically do. Even though Troy's system has probably the only lead provider that is actually doing enhanced lead optimization, where we're trying our level best to keep up on the data and making sure that everything's as quality as possible, as accurate as possible. Inherently, just because of age itself, that's not going to be perfect. So I personally, whenever I use Age Leads, I'm willing to invest a little extra dollars to do one more step of verification before I ever, and this is particular to email. I never email any list. I think this is the best practice, no matter where you're getting data from. Never email a list before you push it through something like Bright Verify, which is the tool that I use. There's a couple like that. And essentially what they do is they're going to go in there, they're going to look for spam traps, which is some things that we already do, but it's nice to have a double check. They're going to look for emails that are going to bounce. They do a test there. They're going to look for emails that look like kind of general emails. They don't look like a person or an individual's emails. There's something like an info at or something like that, which tend to be high risk emails. So they're going to go through there and they're going to kind of grade that whole list. And that additional verification will allow you, based on sort of your risk tolerance and your understanding of your system, you can kind of pick the segment of emails that you want to go and use. And so with that, you're going to lose some of that data, right? Some of it's going to be bounces and those sorts of things. But that's okay, because those people are never going to be responsive, right? If they're a bounce or they've changed their email or Bright Verify tells you that they're risky, for whatever reason, that's not going to be a responsive email anyway. So I kind of want them out before I start to email them and sort of assert my profile on somebody like Mailchimp or something like that, right? I want to be a good sender, right? So I want to only send to people that I think is a high probability of responding to me. Okay, so do that extra layer of verification. The second thing that I always do is put them into my CRM system. So I see too many people that just rely only on email or rely only on a dialer. I want to get these, again, I'm trying to build a book of business, so I want to go ahead and put them in my CRM and start working them like any other lead I would do. So I'm actually going to call through them. And most of you guys are only buying a few hundred leads. That's something you can dial through in a week, right? So I want them to hear my voice. I want to be leaving voicemails. I want to get them in my regular flow of whether that's sales process. And you will be amazed as you approach these and you just work through them in your CRM and you give them the same sort of touches that you would a referral, or you would a real-time lead, or you would any other kind of lead in there. You will be amazed at how many of these will start to convert, because you'll just be in a better frame of mind. You'll be using kind of a proven sales process already, and they're not just kind of sitting over here doing this kind of weirdo standalone email thing. So put them in your CRM and start working them that way. A lot of great CRMs out there. So if you want tool recommendations on CRMs, because there are so many, just drop me a note in here and I'll kind of list out some of the ones that I like and I have used. Like I said, start calling them, start leaving voicemails. Don't neglect this part. I want them to hear my voice. I want them to hear my brand, right? So I'm going to leave voicemails. Some people use voicemail drops. That's okay. Yeah, Gwen. Okay, CRMs. Okay, everybody's always interested in the CRMs. So I've used a variety. I am currently using Nutshell. In the past, I have used Close.io. I've used what is it? Lead to Contact, Velocify. So those are kind of common ones. Velocify is insurance mortgage. I actually prefer the non-industry specific CRMs, because usually they actually do the sales process better, which all you guys know how to sell insurance and you know how to sell mortgage. And that process generally ends up in something else like Encompass or with your carrier system or whatever. And so what you really need help with is the sales part. So I typically like to use a more generalized CRM because they have all the latest and greatest in there, right? So Nutshell allows you to send out emails and do drip campaigns right inside of there. It's got a click to dial feature, so I don't have to do anything different. I can just get on my computer, put on my headset, and start dialing, doing lists and stuff like that. Close.io is just as good at that. Anyway, so I like to do that approach. Okay, so all right, so let's get past CRMs. Like I said, leave voicemails. I think it's always a mistake if you don't leave a voicemail. I want them to hear that voice. The other thing that this does is it will start to get responses this is where text messaging comes in. I like to use a tool called callaction.co. And what this does is it kind of keeps you clean with the text messaging thing, right? There are some text messaging systems that will allow you to load this list in and then blast. Just like I don't like to load age leads into Mailchimp and blast, I don't like to do that with text messaging either. I feel like that will get you in trouble. But if I leave voicemails and they call me back, hopefully I'm making a lot of calls and I might not want to be interrupted. And I've found that people are very responsive to a text message, especially one that seems very natural. And what call action does is if it gets a call back using your call action number, then it will immediately send out a text message and then allow you to set up campaigns that will essentially say, hey, Bob, I'm on a call right now, but I want to give you a call back. When's the best time? And they get that as a text message, just like you would do on your iPhone or your Android phone. If you're on a call, you can send somebody a text message and say, hey, I want to call you back. And that's great because they tell you exactly when they want to call. They've sort of, again, opted in and sort of leaned into saying, yeah, I want to talk to you. So I love that piece of software because, one, I'm not sort of interrupting my normal sales process with a bunch of callbacks. But I'm also initiating that extra leg in my system of text messaging. So that's the way I like to do text messages. Okay, emails. Again, I like to do this within my CRM, but if you're not going to use it within your CRM, use something like Mailshake that actually attaches to your normal email client, your Gmail or your Outlook or whatever. And what this does that's different than something like a Mailchimp is that it actually drips these out as if you were sending them manually. So you're going to set up the emails because you're going to kind of send the same sort of very short, maybe a couple lines, personal emails. I shared with all of you my drip email sequences. That's actually, I use that inside of my CRM, but you can use it with Mailshake if you don't have a good CRM that'll let you do drips. But you can set up that drip, and what it'll do is as you load the leads in, it will individually mail them out from your individual account in a very natural, controlled way. So it's not like Mailchimp where they're just putting them in, blasting them out, right? And this is why Mailchimp has such a tight tolerance on its bounces, because since it's blasting all at once, it doesn't want to have a bounce rate of anything higher than like 0.5%, right? Which is really low. So if you buy 500 emails or 500 leads from Age Lead Store, you're definitely going to have at least a 1% sort of failure rate in there. It's just kind of the nature of the age. And that will immediately get you flagged on Mailchimp. Doesn't mean the list you're buying of Age Leads is bad or unproductive or there's not gold in there. It just means it's not going to meet their tolerances. But with something like Mailshake, especially if you've done some Bright Verify, you're going to get a nice, clean, methodical send. And then what I do from that is all of those opens and replies. I'm going to kind of work that warm-up sequence of 2 or 3 emails. You can see that in my drip email. After I've done that, anything that opens, anything that replies is then going to get moved over into Mailchimp or whatever my long-term nurturing newsletter campaign is, right? So once I've got some acknowledgement that they're alive, they're good emails, they're opening and interested in what my subject line says, they're probably clicking on some of my stuff, then I'm going to move them into something like Mailchimp, and you can just do that technologically. You can automate that. I won't go into all those details there, but you can just, again, naturally flow them over into there. And the only thing that I have in Mailchimp is what I consider my book of business, right? So those are clients that have heard me, talked to me, responded to me. I've actually sold to in the past, are existing clients, and then I'm just constantly working on that book of business to stay top of mind. So that's the only thing that goes into Mailchimp. I would just say, just unequivocally, never buy age leads or any data from anybody, even real-time leads, and then shove them into something like Mailchimp. Okay, so that goes into the don'ts. I kind of jumped into that. Never jam data, never jam age leads, never jam sort of non-client data, non-responsive data into anything like Mailchimp, right? You're just going to get flagged. It's going to frustrate you. You're going to think the list is bad when there's tons of value in it, right? So don't do that. And then the second thing, which kind of goes to Gwen's earlier question, is do not jam that list into a text messaging software and blast it. I don't even think you should jam it in and do voicemail drops, right? I think there's something to that natural cadence that you're going to do by putting them through a sales system. I'm all for automation here and there, but you want it to feel like a natural flow for those customers. All right. Any other questions? I'm going to shut this down. This went a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I thought it was super important to get this information out because I know that it is a common mistake to buy age leads and jam them into Mailchimp and then get all pissed off because you got flagged, and it's just because the tolerances are so wicked tight there. So there's another way to do it, and hopefully that'll get you. I've had tons of success with this style specifically. You'll see some of it in the description here. I would love, before all you guys jump off, if you can give me a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, definitely subscribe and share with all your friends. And we're actually going to send this out, I think, in our email newsletter this week so that everybody can get this, because I think this is super important stuff. So anyway, thanks for joining me. Love you guys out there. Stay tuned. We'll have another one next week. If you've got any ideas for topics or things that are bothering you or stumping you, I love those kind of emails. Just throw it in the comments here, and we'll work on specific things that you're struggling with. It doesn't always have to be my ideas. I love emails like that one I got where somebody ran into a problem, and I can whip on here and try to hopefully solve that for as many people as possible. So anyway, see you later.